Omar Felix Cueva is a good representation in this case study because of his background being involved in the dark criminal world at such a young age. He worsens his situation from just stashing the product to trafficking them throughout the state and out of state. This yet again caught the attention of law enforcement, and their end goal was to permanently lock Omar behind bars. Omar agreed to meet and sell 35 pounds of his products. Now, the intent was to use Officer Jarrett's intervention to apprehend Omar at the perfect time. However, due to a lack of information beyond the order to stop the suspect, the situation became chaotic and led to an unexpected turn of events. Not anticipating Omar's reaction, the officers were unprepared for a potential confrontation. No one could predict what would happen. From a glimpse, Officer Jarrett noticed a holster on Omar and asked if he had any weapons that can harm him. With a nonchalant answer from Omar, he responded, "No, I don't." Officer Jarrett decided to take a few steps back from the vehicle to make some radio calls. Without knowing, Omar started shuffling through papers, making it seem like he was looking for documents. Moving stealthily inside and out of the vehicle, Omar grabbed his semi-automatic weapon, opened his car door while Jarrett was making calls, stepped out, split of the moment. In today's time, the majority of men have impressively been civilized compared to other generations, having self-control, morals, and being more humane in society. There's a study between the philosophical confrontations of Hobbes and Rousseau. What motivates a man to commit evil acts against others? Is it their upbringing from a young age, or is it a natural inclination? Omar Felix Cueva is a good representation in this case study because of his background being involved in the dark criminal world at such a young age. Later in Omar's life, he ended up paying for a brutal attack against a New Mexico officer by the name of Darian Jarrett. This all began in Deming, Luna County, New Mexico, a region that has long been marginalized in the United States, making life difficult for all who live there, and Omar is considered a part of this problem. It's believed Omar committed his first crime, which is vandalizing properties at the age of 13 in California. Once Omar moved from California to New Mexico, he gradually got involved in the remedy business. After being arrested multiple times, he became more seduced to breaking the law and continued with this rampage of committing more crimes. As he delved deeper into pills and potions, he was once again arrested in 2000 and released in 2001. He worsens his situation from just stashing the product to trafficking them throughout the state and out of state. This yet again caught the attention of law enforcement, and their end goal was to permanently lock Omar behind bars. The initial plan by undercover officers was to engage and convince Omar to give out information on where his products were coming from and hopefully start selling it to them. For a stronger case, one of the officers asked Omar about his weapon and if he was willing to sell it to them. His response was, "No. Back then something happened to me involving my weapon. This is for my protection." The officer decided to let it go and continue on with the original plan, which will confidently lead to an arrest. On February 4th, 2021, they organized an operation in which Omar agreed to meet and sell 35 pounds of his products. Unbeknownst to him, this person was an undercover officer. The officers in charge of the operation were Palomares and Montez. They would later consider Cueva too dangerous of a target not to capture. Omar dropped off his family back home with a goodbye. Pieces began to fall right into place like planned. Palomares and Montez cautiously followed Omar, making sure not to lose sight of him. Tension grew at the possibility of him discovering their intentions. The fear of a chase was palpable as the line between success and failure became increasingly thin. On the morning of February 4th, a strategic meeting was held in Las Cruces to fine-tune the details of the meticulous plan. However, there was one significant setback: the absence of state police representatives from the meeting. This detail would later prove to be a major obstacle to the operation. The original plan called for constant surveillance of Omar's residence to monitor his movements. The presence of Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, agents on Interstate 10 provided constant surveillance and allowed Palomares and Montez to intervene when necessary. Tactical coordination covered the entire area. HSI agents were strategically positioned in Las Cruces, ready to act if Plan A didn't go as expected. A designated truck stop served as an alternate rendezvous point in case the main plan failed. With all preparations in place, the operation began. Officer Jarrett, like many others, was unaware of the situation until he spotted a vehicle, specifically a pickup truck, passing by at the last moment and decided to pursue and stop it. The operation seemed to be going smoothly, as the original plan didn't involve Officer Jarrett, but because of this situation, plans had to change quickly. Now, the intent was to use Officer Jarrett's intervention to apprehend Omar at the perfect time. However, due to a lack of information beyond the order to stop the suspect, the situation became chaotic and led to an unexpected turn of events. Not anticipating Omar's reaction, the officers were unprepared for a potential confrontation. No one could predict what would happen. Would Omar get startled and end the meetup, or would he stay calm and get himself out of this situation? Officers watched from a distance on standby. At about 12:05 p.m., Officer Jarrett approached the vehicle, responding with an answer for the stop, which is dark window tints. From a glimpse, Officer Jarrett noticed a holster on Omar and asked if he had any weapons that can harm him. With a nonchalant answer from Omar, he responded, "No, I don't." Officer Jarrett decided to take a few steps back from the vehicle to make some radio calls. Without knowing, Omar started shuffling through papers, making it seem like he was looking for documents. Moving stealthily inside and out of the vehicle, Omar grabbed his semi-automatic weapon, opened his car door while Jarrett was making calls, stepped out. Split of the moment, Omar opened fire, hitting Officer Jarrett. He quickly ran around his vehicle, pointing his weapon and opening fire multiple times, ending it with a final blow, committing a coup de grace. Immediately after, he quickly returned to his vehicle and sped away. From afar, other officers noticed someone laying on the ground, thinking Officer Jarrett had taken down Omar, until they arrived at the scene and realized it was Jarrett, frozen still on the floor. HIS quickly called for emergency and communicated with the team of what just occurred. All officers were alerted about Omar and were tasked to take him down by any means necessary, as he now has become an extreme threat to the public. Omar got on the phone with the buyers and communicated what just occurred and was willing to proceed on with the sale. As two pursuits were traveling on the opposite lane of I-10, Omar's vehicle was spotted and the chase began. Driving recklessly, not caring for the public's safety, at one point Omar decided to stop his vehicle and exchange in a firefight with officers. The atmosphere was tense. An officer was gruesomely taken down, and any mistake could be catastrophic for everyone present. Omar, however, managed to escape, minutes later getting back into his vehicle and speeding off, having to maneuver carefully as he continued to fire into the open road, forcing officers to stay low to the ground to avoid any mishap. The officers regretted not anticipating that he was armed in this manner, although they should have suspected it, since nobody in their right mind would show up without any kind of weapon on them, but they never imagined that he would take it to this level. While still firing more shots out the driver's side window, the officers knew for sure that Omar had to be put down. All exits were blocked off as everything was planned out before in case a situation like this would have occurred, and the cause of all of this were the absence of important figures in the Las Cruces meeting to capture Omar, which was the final meeting before the operation was in effect. The lack of state police representation was also the cause, keeping it a secret and not informing the ones on patrol in certain areas where the individual was more likely to pass by was the result of poor organization. Meanwhile, the outlined strategy was primarily aimed at discreet surveillance and coordinated action to ensure the arrest of Omar, Felix, Cueva. Anticipating possible deviations from the main plan proved to be a clever tactic, but at the same time insufficient to resolve the situation. During the chase, one of the officers managed to sneak up and commit a pit maneuver, in a move worthy of a Hollywood movie, rammed Omar's car, causing him to lose control and become trapped. At that moment, another officer immediately stopped to corner him. Omar's vehicle stalled. He got out with no hesitation, ran to the closest police vehicle, trying to perform the same move he did on Officer Jarrett. The officer tripped and managed to still open fire towards Omar, quickly getting met with a Hail Mary from other officers. They all closed on him, leaving him no way to escape. Omar was seen on body cams laying on the ground, not moving. It was confirmed. Omar was gone. This whole pursuit lasted less than 1 hour. Omar exerted a great deal of force in trying to escape and failed. Bags containing all the goods were found in the vehicle and apprehended. Unfortunately, this did not bring back Officer Jarrett. As it said, they'd found more than 6 rounds lodged in his chest. Damaged organs were the heart, kidneys, lungs, and head. It was impossible to sustain such injuries, leaving 3 kids and a wife behind. I-10 was later named after Darian Jarrett in his memory and service.